Hello friends, from Sarat Chandra IAS Academy. This is a tribute to Mahatma Gandhi on the occasion of his birth anniversary on October 2nd. So Mahatma Gandhi, the leading light of Indian nation, the father of India, led a peaceful and non-violent struggle for achieving Indian independence. So in this lecture, it is a part of several lectures. In the first part, I am going to recount the life of Mahatma Gandhi, and in the next lectures, we will be going through various facets of his thought, his ideology, and his strategy, and the impact of Mahatma Gandhi's life and thought, not only on India or Indian freedom struggle, but also on the struggles for justice all over the world. So this is the first part of this lecture series. So first of all, Mahatma Gandhi was born on October 2nd, 1869 in a westernmost region of Gujarat called Porbandar. Gandhiji's the location of Gandhiji's birth, and also the family conditions and the upbringing and the philosophical and religious influences on Gandhiji from the early part of his life made Gandhiji what he was later. So Gandhiji's influences on philosophical and intellectual, religious influences on Gandhiji made what he was. First of all, Gandhiji's family belonged to by caste. Gandhiji's family belonged to the Baniyas. Baniyas were traders. They were Vaishyas. But by religious influence, Gandhiji was raised with the influence of Vaishnavism. Vaishnavism's influence was very much on Gujarati families. Especially Vaishnavite philosopher and social reformer Vallabhacharya's influence was great on Gandhiji. So this Vaishnavism, which was keenly followed by Gandhiji's mother Putlibai, made Gandhiji understand that God is everywhere. So even in the sinner and a saint there is God. So Manav Seva is Madhav Seva. That means to serve humanity is to serve God. These two philosophical inclinations of Gandhiji were mainly the result of Gandhiji's upbringing and Vaishnavite influence on Gandhiji. Along with Vaishnavism, Gandhiji was also influenced by Jainism. Gandhiji recounted this incident that while he was a child, several Jain scholars, philosophers and saints used to visit his father, who was a Diwan of Porbandar state, and they were having discussions many times about the Jain philosophy and its practical aspects. This also made Gandhiji to study Jainism and also to follow several aspects of Jain philosophy throughout his life. Especially Gandhiji's absolute insistence on non-violence. And also leading a very simple, austere lifestyle. They were mainly because of the influence on Gandhiji and his early mind, because of mind on his early life, because of Jainism. So from the childhood days onwards, Gandhiji was greatly influenced by the religious philosophy of Vaishnavism, which entirely focused on serving man as a service to God and also to work for social reform, because Vaishnavism that was founded by great Saint Ramanujacharya in South India focused on social reform and also reforming the Brahminical ideas and orthodoxy, and also elevating the position of the lower caste and also the Dalits in India. So Gandhi was also committed to these ideas because of his influence, because of the influence of Vaishnavism. Jainism's influence was Gandhiji's lifelong insistence on absolute non-violence, and also because of Gandhiji's simple, austere lifestyle was also an influence of Jainism. So after passing his matriculation, Gandhiji went to study barrister in London. While staying in London as a student for more than 2.5 years, 3 years, Gandhiji's mind was further influenced by two other great philosophical ideas. First one, Gandhiji first studied Bhagavad Gita while he was a student in England. So Bhagavad Gita's insistence, Bhagavad Gita's focus on karma yoga. One should only focus on practicing one's own dharma without expecting any result. So was a result of Bhagavad Gita's influence on Gandhiji, and Gandhiji carried these ideas. Gandhiji was committed to this idea of karma yoga, nishkama karma. That means practicing one's own dharma without expecting anything in return in life. So that was Gandhiji's commitment to Bhagavad Gita's idea of karma yoga. And also Gandhiji at the same time also studied a New Testament, the Bible. And Gandhiji was very much in awe. Gandhiji was very much influenced by Jesus' message to his followers and disciples, which is a part of a Sermon on the Mount, which is a part of New Testament, Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus preaches to his followers that one should practice absolute non-violence even towards one's own enemies. Even when a person is on the death throes, they should not practice violence. Love and kindness towards one's enemies is a very great religious virtue. That's what Jesus explained and preached to his disciples. So this idea of non-violence and peace and kindness towards even one's enemies, Gandhiji carried this idea and committed to this idea until his death. So these were the four great religious influences on Gandhiji in his childhood and also when he was a student in London. First one, Vaishnavism. Later, Gandhiji was also influenced by Jainism. Later, when he was a student in England preparing for barrister, he also was influenced by Christianity and New Testament. And Gandhiji was also further influenced by Bhagavad Gita, which he read for the first time in English. There was a great book on Bhagavad Gita written by a person called Arnold. Arnold wrote Bhagavad Gita with the title Song Celestial. So, very interestingly, Gandhiji did not study Bhagavad Gita when he was in India, but he was introduced to Bhagavad Gita when he was a student in London. So, after completing his barrister, while he was completing his barrister, Gandhiji was also influenced by another great political idea which was very much popular in England at that time, between 1888 to 1891 when Gandhiji was staying in London. So at that time, another great political idea called anti-industrialism. Anti-industrialism was a great critic against the inequalities and utter destruction caused to the social norms and social structure because of the ravages of industrial revolution, and also because of the inequalities caused between the poor and the rich, and because of the dependence, permanent dependence of the labor on the industrial class, and almost semi-slavery of the working class. All these negative effects of industrial revolution were studied by great intellectuals and political philosophers in England at that time. So Gandhiji was also very much influenced by this critique of industrialism, and also Gandhiji was influenced by anarchism. Anarchism believes that only a society without state can be a peaceful society. State is a hindrance to empower the individual. State is a hindrance for achieving brotherhood among the various sections of society. So these were the ideas that Gandhiji was influenced when he was staying in London. When Gandhiji returned to India after completing his barrister, he wanted to practice law as a barrister in Bombay High Court, but he was unsuccessful because as a personality he was shy. Shyness was his inherent personality and natural personality. So Gandhiji was asked to work on a case that was going on in South Africa by a Gujarati merchant. So in 1893 September, Gandhiji, as a legal help, as a junior lawyer, went to South Africa to help in a case of a Gujarati merchant. Then on September 11th, 1893, exactly on September 11th, 1893, Gandhiji, for the first time in his life in South Africa, felt the humiliation of racism. Gandhiji was treated in a very humiliating manner by throwing him outside his own train compartment, even though he carried a first class ticket, because of his dark color, because of his skin. So Gandhiji had for the first time experienced the negative effects of the racist policies that were followed in South Africa. But please understand, Gandhiji stayed in England as a student for more than 2.5 years, but never once in his life in England he felt this racial humiliation, but only in a colony of England, in South Africa, Gandhiji for the first time felt this racial humiliation, and he had taken a vow to fight against this racism all his life, against this racial discrimination. So his case was very easily wound up by the end of the year, but Gandhiji was asked to remain in South Africa even after December 1893 when the case was over, because the Natal, one of the colonies in South Africa, one of the states, provinces in South Africa, Natal, legislature at that time passed a legislation disenfranchising the dark races. Disenfranchised, that means taking away their right to vote. So Gandhiji was asked by the Indians in Natal to write petition, because he was the only English educated lawyer and he was also qualified for barrister. He was asked to stay in Natal and help fight against the injustice to re-enfranchise the Indians. That was not the only problem that Indians were facing in South Africa. Along with the disenfranchisement, Indians in South Africa were also facing the problem of compulsory registration. Indians by law were required to compulsorily carry registration certificates. That was a personal insult for Indians, very Indian individual, because only Indians were asked to do so. And the third problem that was faced by Indians in South Africa was that restricted movement of Indians into some of the provinces in South Africa, like Orange County. Indians were not permitted to enter, or Indians were not permitted to practice certain professions in South Africa because they would come in competition to the whites. That was the third problem. Fourth problem that was faced by Indians was Indian marriages were not recognized. Indian marriages that were committed by Indians in India were not recognized. So that was a personal insult to Indian women community. These were the four problems mainly rose because of Indians' race. These were all problems of racial discrimination. Against these problems of racial discrimination, Gandhiji fought in two different ways. Between 1893 to 1906, Gandhiji used moderate methods. Just like the Congress moderates were using in India, Gandhiji also used the moderate methods of constitutional and legal methods of hesitation. Constitutional and legal methods of hesitation were used by Gandhiji, like petitioning, like passing resolutions, publishing books and journals. All these moderate and constitutional legal methods were used by Gandhiji for the first 13 years. And also he petitioned many times to the British Parliament, but the problem was not rectified. And in this same time period, in 1899, Gandhiji asked the Indians to fulfill their duty as citizens of the British Empire by fighting a war in which Britain was involved against the Boers. In the Boer War, which was fought against the Boer community, who were the descendants of the Dutch in South Africa, Gandhiji asked the Indians to fulfill their duty towards the British Empire. But still, the British rule, the British Empire did not show any mercy on the Indians by solving their problems. So, in the same time period, in 1903, Gandhiji first established his own first newspaper called Indian Opinion. It was a multilingual journal that was started by Gandhiji to politically educate not Indians but the British. The white man should be politically educated about the real issues that the Indians were facing as British citizens. Gandhiji insisted that when British government had taken up the administration of India in 1857, Queen Victoria, the British Queen at that time, made a promise. One of the most important points of this promise made by Queen Victoria was that British Indians, the Indians under the British Empire, would be treated in the same way without any discrimination on the basis of their religion or color along with the other white people of the empire. But Gandhiji insisted that by practicing this racial discrimination which I mentioned, the British government and the British Empire was treating Indians in a very discriminated way. Gandhiji, as a citizen of the British Empire, wanted to rectify this issue. So, Indian Opinion was an effort in that direction. In the next year, in 1904, Gandhiji also founded one of the first settlement that he first made, Phoenix Ashram. Gandhiji opened the Phoenix Ashram, where people from any religious community, of any religion, any caste, any creed, any nationality, can live together as common humans of the world in a single settlement as a family. So Gandhiji repeated the same experiment while he was staying in South Africa. He also opened another ashram called Tolstoy Farm, and also when he came back to India, Gandhiji also opened his own ashrams called Sabarmati Ashram and also Wardha Ashram, and Gandhiji's own followers opened their own ashrams where people would live in a communal way. Communal way means like a family, irrespective of their differences, irrespective of their identities. So these things were also Gandhiji did between 1893 to 1906. But British government or South African government, which was a part of the British Empire, were unresponsive. So in 1906, Gandhiji started a very novel method of political strategy to fight against injustice. So between 1906 to 1914, that was the second part of his stay in South Africa, Gandhiji invented a new political strategy to fight against injustice. Before we discuss about Gandhiji's strategy, before 1906, there were only two political strategies followed by any person anywhere in the world to fight against injustice or political oppression. They were, first one, revolutionary methods of terror. Revolutionary methods of terror which were practiced by the French in 1789, 1830, 1848. In these three revolutions, the revolutionaries used methods of terror against the oppressors, which always had devoured its own children. There is a saying in political science that every revolution first devours its own children. So the revolutionary violence not only killed, the oppressors, but also the activists. So that's one form of method that was followed before Gandhiji. And the second method was constitutional methods of agitation, which were followed also by moderate national leaders like Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee, Umesh Chandra Banerjee, and Firoz Shah Mehta, Dadabhai Nauroji, and Mahadev Govind Ranade. All these great national leaders followed the constitutional and legal methods, which were always neglected by the ruling classes. So revolutionary methods only killed its own, oppressed its own people, and the constitutional methods were completely neglected by the ruling class who were practicing oppression. So they both were, to a great extent, were almost useless. So Gandhiji Gandhiji invented a third method called Satyagraha. In this method of Satyagraha, Gandhiji told the people that they should not sit silently witnessing all the injustices perpetrated by the oppressors. So they would actively oppose any form of injustice. But at the same time, they would not practice violence. They would only practice non-violence, because violence would only beget more violence. So it is the principle of every religion. It is a doctrine in every religion that violence begets more violence, and to kill a person is the greatest sin that can be committed by any person. So non-violent method was followed in order to actively oppose against injustice by trying to transform one's oppressor, one's opponent. So that was the method that Gandhiji invented in South Africa in 1906. And at that particular period of time, Gandhiji was also in communication with one of the greatest writers and moral philosophers of that time, called Leo Tolstoy. So, along with Leo Tolstoy, there were two other great philosophers and intellectuals who had a great impact on the philosophy of Gandhiji. So, while he was staying in South Africa, he was greatly influenced by three other great philosophers. While he was in India as a student and as a child, he was greatly influenced by Vaishnavism and Jainism. I already explained this. He was greatly influenced by Vaishnavism and Jainism because of his family's upbringing. And also, while he was staying in England as a student, he was also influenced by Christianity, especially Sermon on the Mount. And he was also influenced by Bhagavad Gita. But these were all religious philosophies. But while Gandhiji fought against injustice in South Africa, he was further influenced by three great philosophers of the modern time. They were, first one, Henry David Thoreau. Henry David Thoreau. He was an American naturalist. He was an American naturalist, writer, and also philosopher. He lived and worked in the early part of the 19th century. In the early 19th century. Even now, every American, not only American student, but every English and even sometimes non-English students also, while they study American literature, they study his book called, he wrote a book called Walden. His observations while he was living in nature on the side of the Walden Pond. He purposefully came out of the civilized life that he was leading at the time and wanted to live as a part of nature. And this was one of the greatest works in English literature written. And another great work of Henry David Thoreau that greatly influenced Mahatma Gandhi was his work Civil Disobedience. On the duty of civil disobedience. On the duty of civil disobedience. Greatly influenced Mahatma Gandhi, because the first sentence of this work says that the best government is the one which governs the least. That means it is not the business of the government to control every aspect of human life. Human, as a human, has to live, then he has to move out of the control of the state as much as possible. So as the quotation itself indicates, Henry David Thoreau was also an anarchist in a noble way, in a noble sense. So what was the idea, most essential idea of civil disobedience? It is the duty of every citizen, according to Thoreau. It is the duty of every citizen and every human under a state to disobey the laws of the state if these laws are made to perpetrate oppression, injustice and exploitation. It is not the duty of the citizen to blindly obey the state in whatever it does, uncritically, but if the state oppresses the individual, it is the duty of the individual to disobey the state, not to practice violence as revolutionaries, but to disobey. Because if mass number of people, millions of people try to and successfully disobey the state, then the state cannot exist, the state cannot practice oppression. So this idea greatly influenced Gandhiji. You can see here, Gandhiji also started his own civil disobedience movement in 1930. So the idea of civil disobedience, civil means in a very respectful, dignified manner, one must disobey without practicing violence or without ill thought. So that idea of Henry David Thoreau had greatly influenced Gandhiji all through his life. The second great philosopher that greatly influenced Gandhiji was Leo Tolstoy. So Leo Tolstoy is probably the greatest Russian novelist. His novels like Anna Karenina and War and Peace and others are masterpieces of Russian literature, and not only Russian literature but world literature. But they did not inspire and influence Gandhiji, but Leo Tolstoy's work called The Kingdom of God is Within You. It is futile, it is useless to search for God outside us, but the kingdom of God is within you. God's kingdom has to be built in our own heart by good deeds, by kind deeds. That's what, according to Leo Tolstoy, what Jesus preached. Jesus did not preach that God's heaven, God's kingdom was outside of this world, but inside the world, in the heart of every devotee. So this idea also greatly influenced Gandhiji. And Leo Tolstoy also encouraged Gandhiji in his Satyagraha hesitation. In his Satyagraha hesitation also, Leo Tolstoy greatly encouraged Gandhiji. The third great writer who influenced Gandhiji while he was staying in South Africa was John Ruskin. Especially John Ruskin's idea, unto the last. John Ruskin's idea, unto the last, where he proposed a philosophy that the measure of development in any society or in any economy is the upliftment that was caused to the common or the poorest individual. If only the poorest of the poor gets any benefit out of any political, social or economic development, that should really be considered as a development. So we have to follow different yardsticks in order to measure how far we developed, how far we progressed. So only a progressive political system is that which liberates the individual, liberates the poorest of the poor individual from his daily troubles, from his philosophical chains, from his intellectual morass. Only then a person has to be considered, a political system has to be considered a progressive one. So this idea of John Ruskin also Gandhiji had carried all his life. These are the three great influences on Gandhiji. So Gandhiji consistently followed this struggle until 1914, and this struggle was a success. In 1914, South African government under the leadership of John Smuts, came to an agreement with Gandhiji that discriminatory laws against the Indians would be scrapped, and Gandhiji was also requested and asked by his political guru, political mentor called Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Great moderate leader Gopal Krishna Gokhale, the political mentor of Gandhiji, asked Gandhiji that you have to come to India leaving South Africa because that there was a much bigger struggle awaiting him in India. So because of these two reasons, agreement reached with John Smuts on the advice and request by his political mentor and guru Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Gandhiji left South Africa and came to India on Jan 9th, 1915. He returned back to India. So Gandhiji spent the first 22 years of his life from 1893 to 1915 after he came back from studies in London in South Africa. And Gandhiji returned back only on Jan 9th, 1915. So this was the most crucial part of Gandhiji's life, where he formed his ideas. He was greatly influenced by different political and philosophical and intellectual trends of the world, and also where Gandhiji first prepared his methods of struggle against injustice, and also Gandhiji made several experiments by using these political strategies to fight against various forms of oppression and injustice. And Gandhiji achieved a kind of success in South Africa, and he returned back to India in 1915 to test these methods in order to solve much bigger, much complex and much older political problems in India. So how Gandhiji tackled these issues we will discuss in the next class.